Hey, so I've been refraining, to be honest, from making this video for quite some time. I've seen a lot on my YouTube feed lately of videos, why I left the UK and broken Britain. And I've been fighting the urge for probably the best part of 6 months to actually make this video and gather my thoughts and do it from a good place, do it from the right place where I wasn't just moaning, but I was actually taking some practical steps towards, what I thought would be a solution in my life to this problem. To the problem of the declining quality of life, let's call a spade, as it feels like it is a lot of us agree on in the UK. I want to come at it slightly differently, and I want to offer what I would say, of course it sounds like, oh, I'm so fair, I'm so balanced, but I want to offer what I think is hopefully a more balanced view as somebody that has very recently left the UK. So let me start with all of the reasons why I've been taking steps to spend less and less time in the UK. And I'm going to consult my notes here, otherwise I'm just going to go off-piste and ramble like I probably already have. The first thing is, I know you guys at home will resonate with this 100%, but everything feels so difficult. Everything feels so hard to fix. If you've got any problem, especially with things like, I know you guys are going to be nodding, broadband and Wi-Fi or your mobile phone, it's an absolute nightmare. You go on the website, I need to cancel or I need to change something or I'm moving home. You're just redirected to 60 million different web pages, go to the FAQ section, where's the live chat? You've promised that you've got a live chat, but it takes pages and pages, 10 minutes to find the live chat, and then they only have a short opening hours, and then they can't actually fix anything on the live chat. Oh, sir, sorry, you've got to call us. Then you call them, you're 20 minutes on the phone. Banks are very similar as well. I find broadband companies are the worst, but banks, as well, it's similar. It's really, really hard work. You're on the phone, they've got 20 different phone lines, you do all your fraud checks and whatnot, and you're on hold and you're this, and everything feels understaffed. You go into a physical bank, you're like, sod this, I want to go to the physical bank. There's only one person on, and bless them, they're doing the best they can, but it's just that one person, there's a queue of 5 people, and you just think there's so much resistance to actually get anything done. Everything feels so bloated but simultaneously cost-cutted, doesn't it? And it's just all the systems are failing, the people have been pulled out, so it's all just systems and machines. So if you've got any slightly unique or niche query, it's really hard to get it fixed because you don't get processed by the system. They've obviously designed this system to process as many people as efficiently as possible. And if you have a problem that falls within the typical confines of the system, you might actually find it quite a seamless and efficient service. But if you want to do anything mildly unconventional, it takes ages anyway to even get your problem addressed, and then you might be waiting weeks and weeks for your problem to get fixed. So this is something I could tolerate for a while. Moderate, I don't need my customer service to be over the top and flamboyant and fake and, hello sir, I don't need that necessarily. But I say fake, sometimes it can be sincere. I don't need that. I can tolerate moderate level customer service, but there's only so many times you can go into the banks and deal with the broadbands before you get really frustrated by it, and everything, you try and do anything and you meet all of this resistance all the time. Sorry, we can't help with that today, sir. Sorry, this is their new line. Sorry, the system doesn't let us do that. It's like, who designed the system then, right? To make it so darn rigid. And that just gets really, and it's not number one on my list, and that doesn't necessarily signify its importance to me, because I think there's probably a lot of people watching this and this is what you start with, there's massive financial problems and you start with something like this. But honestly, it's not my number one, but it made the cut for this list because it's so tiring to get anything done. You realize how much red tape and bureaucracy really hold you back from actually just getting anything useful done. And I think this actually feeds into my second criticism as well here, which is that I observe a massive decline in standards, and I think personal standards are slipping. I also think this manifests as service provision, of course, because we are the individuals going and doing the work. So if we've had a drop in standards in our personal life, does that extend into the working world? I don't think that's a stretch to imagine. And we are the people, again, providing services. We are the people building those ineffective systems that I've just moaned about. And so I can't help but see a connection there. And so when we're looking at the individual level, and we can observe the increase in obesity. You know, I'm going to sound incredibly vain and judgmental here. Actually, the obesity aspect is a huge part of my job. I'm in the nutrition and health space, so that's a huge part of my job. So that's why I observe that, but you can't help but notice it. You can't help but notice that people dress worse. Again, I sound really judgmental here, and there's a great irony because I spend 50% of my life in Under Armour gear because I love my sport and whatnot. But at the same time, you know, when you go out, you see people in dressing gowns in the grocery store, and you just, in the supermarket, and you, grocery store, how Americanized, in the supermarket, and you, yeah, so international now, you see, yeah, the grocery store. You see people in dressing gowns and their Ugg boots, and you just think, I mean, it's like, I kind of appreciate the F you attitude, I'm just gonna wear what I want, and what, I'm slightly divided on this, but you can't help but notice again, like, there's just this trend here of like, are we losing something about our desire to care about, okay, maybe it sounds superficial, appearance, but is that an extension of something deeper? I don't think it is that vain and superficial. And I think there is a drop in how much we care and how invested we are in ourselves and therefore our society on a more broad scale. And that worries me, just this massive decline in standards. Third criticism, and people have done this to death, and I'm not going to be able to say anything particularly insightful or profound that somebody hasn't said 100, 1,000 times before me, but the government, it feels, and I can play devil's advocate with this and be fair, but it feels like the government right now, and for a long time, has had absolutely no interest in genuinely bettering the country and fixing problems. And there's a lot of words said, but if you look at the action spoken, what is actually getting resolved? And I would say not a great deal. And that's a huge one. And like I say, this list is in no particular order of importance, because this might be higher. If it was, this might be higher. This might have been earlier than number 3. But it's really sad. It just feels like we're all observing the same issues. It's not like this narrative that it's tribal and it's ridiculously polarized. It might be in terms of potential solutions. Yeah, I'll concede on that. But in terms of like coming together as a collective, as Brits, and saying, these are the things that don't work anymore, I feel, I'm pulling this out of thin air, it's wildly anecdotal, I feel like 90% of us agree on what the problems actually are. There is conflicting opinion on what the appropriate solutions to those things are. When 90% of people in a country are saying, hey, these are the problems, and the government aren't fixing them, or are proving to be busybodies with other more menial, things that are actually more menial to the British populace, I don't like that. That's not, obviously I don't like that. That's not right. And that's, for me, was a really big line in the sand. It's like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep staying somewhere where, like, there's no perfect country. So the UK is having problems. The country I live in now, undoubtedly, I'm going to discover, has many, many problems. Every country I've visited, there's been things I don't like, things I observe in that culture that I don't like. But for 90% of us to agree on, hey, these are the problems, and it feels like we're busybodying, the government rather, busybodying with fixing very menial, addressing very menial things that we don't actually feel are the things that are going to move us forward, the big deal breakers. I don't get it. It feels so misaligned. The next one, and this one really makes me sad, it's this incessant, there's something in the collective British consciousness, psyche, that I really don't like. I love Brits, I love British character and spirit and banter, I love our friendliness, I love when we can channel it. I think we've lost it in recent years, that stiff upper lip. There's lots I love about British thinking, let's say, collective think. This one thing drives me nuts. It's this incessant tear down anyone that's a little bit different, or try, not even someone that's successful, but we do have a hate the successful, hate the rich psyche. There's a lot of people in the UK with chips on their shoulders about anyone that does well. But even someone that's just trying to do well, even someone that's trying to get a promotion or trying to lose weight, like, it really seems to annoy people, is my observation. People feel like they have to bring you down. I actually think it's disgusting, which is a really strong word, but I think it's disgusting, this negative, pessimistic, I don't know if it's jealousy, how much jealousy or envy is baked into it, versus more just that we're so pro-humility that if you do any kind of self-complimentary stuff, like, people feel like they have to say, but They have to check you. Like, they have a duty and a responsibility to check you. Hey, I've lost 10 pounds recently, but you don't want to lose too much weight. You don't want to take it too far. I got this promotion. I'm so excited. But be careful. You might have to work more hours. Like, people, like, maybe these are sensible. Maybe I'm being harsh. Maybe these are sensible, ways that our loved ones play devil's advocate for us and remind us that the grass isn't always greener. However, at the same time, I don't know, that's not my instinct. My instinct is there's something weird happening, and I think it's been going on for a long time. It's been driving me nuts for the best part of my adult life since I started observing this, but we've got to tear down people. We've got to, like tall poppy syndrome. Anyone putting their head above the, anyone that's growing, anyone that's trying to do something, and I'm not even talking about myself necessarily. I don't consider myself a particularly bold, successful person. I don't sit there, I have my ambitions, and I do believe in myself greatly, but I don't sit there and put them out to the world because I know how dangerous and silly that can be, and I'm very protective. I'm actually quite private and secretive about my goals and ambitions, but that's a defense mechanism to people talking smack. People will do it to your face as well. They'll do that but thing, but. And this is what I love about Americans. Like, you guys do this, you sell yourself so well, and you're so proud, and you're so positive, and you own, like, that's something I wish we had a little bit more of. Just that, like, it's okay to say, I'm gonna do this now, and I wanna do this, and I don't think you need to be brash or bold. Like, I'm not sat here saying, I'm gonna be a decamillionaire by the time I'm 45 years old. Like, I don't do things like that. But even for my, like, little minor ambitions, I can feel, sometimes they say it, sometimes it's what you feel. I pick up on such a negative energy, bit of a woo-woo term. But I do, and just that tall poppy syndrome, it drives me nuts. Next one, societal division is only growing. And, I said 5 minutes ago, like, we're all in agreement with, X, Y, and Z, these are the problems. But the problem is, like, the collective cortisol releases through the roof. Everyone's in the hamster wheel. Even if you're earning really good money in the UK, it doesn't get you very, very far anymore. We'll talk about cost of living, I think, is actually my next point. And so it's easy to get at each other's necks all the time. Like, you see people driving in traffic and they're just red-faced. Like, the collective feeling of being on edge, like, it's very, very visible to me. I'm even nervous about going back later this summer when I go and visit the UK this summer, but just that feeling. I noticed it when I came back from Asia, which is, it depends where in Asia, but it is the total opposite. It's the antithesis of that. And you come back to the UK and it's like, oh my God, you feel like everybody hates each other. And sometimes they say it, sometimes it's very visible, and sometimes it's not. But just this lingering tension. Like, I feel everywhere I go in the UK, maybe this is an exaggeration, I'm kind of checking myself as I say this. Is this true? I would say a lot of places I go in the UK, and it depends where, I feel like I'm treated suspiciously. Like, who's this and what do they, like, I'm just trying to buy a coffee. I'm just trying to buy a green tea, man. And I feel like they look at you weird. I think there's another element of, like, social skills have gone down the pan. Maybe that's declining standards. Maybe that fits into another category here. But I do think the societal division is only growing. And we have the problems that we have. We have clashes of cultures now in the UK more and more. The tension is very, very tangible, and it makes you stressed and it makes you nervous. Even if your life is mostly good, you're affected by this macro tension, this idea that we're at each other's throats. And like I say, we all agree with the same criticism. So we should be collectively and collaboratively working towards fixing those things. But none of us are as happy as perhaps we once were with things backsliding the way they are. I don't know, are we turning on each other? Are we're just more stressed entities walking around into the world, aren't we, interacting with each other? It's not going to end well. I really don't think it's going to end well. Cost of living, it's absurd, and for what? Like, I don't mind, I'm not a rich person by any means, I'm not. I don't mind investing or buying in a product or a service, an experience, let's say a meal out, that is a bit more expensive than average. I don't mind that. I am not a penny pincher by any means. I actually have the opposite problem. I'm not a penny pincher. But it has to be for something. It has to be excellent service. It has to be world-class service for that extra money. It just doesn't feel like it is anymore. And you're in a restaurant and the food is really poor and the wait time's poor and the staff aren't quite as attentive and friendly as it felt like they were 10 years ago. Just little observations like this. So that cost of living is going through the roof. For what? Like, rent is a great example of this. If you own a home, it's slightly different, but I appreciate that, you know, the fluctuation in mortgage rates is doing people's heads in. Doing those that own homes, that's doing their heads in as well. So there's different problems. But with the rental market, this is really obvious because it's just going up and up and up for the same property. And it's like, and like, is there any more maintenance? Is there any more furnishing happening? No. So what is the increased cost of living for? We know what it's for. It's to prop up this really bloated economy. But it's absurd. It's absurd. And for what? And a great thing about, you know, places like, I spent 3 months in Bangkok last year. Like these major cities, whether it's London, whether it's Bangkok, whether it's Tokyo, whether it's New York, you know, this is not a UK problem. The price is going like this. But the problem in the UK is the price has already started like this versus other places in the world that you can have an amazing quality of life to cost ratio. And so like Bangkok's prices are going like this. That's what I observed, speaking to I was only there for 3 months, but that's what I observed, even looking at prices now from when I was there last year and speaking to folks on the ground there whilst I was there. Like, they're having the same issues with, like, cost of living in the major cities going up. But if the cost is already starting here, you catch my drift, like, the increase, you're just way ahead of the curve if you're in the UK, basically. So the cost of living is going up, and for what? Stress and unhappiness of the collective culture. We're a nation of complainers now. I've already said this, I'm not going to repeat it. Like, I don't even necessarily blame, do I? I don't know. Do I blame Brits for moaning so much? Or do I think, how can you question that when things are failing in the way that I argue they are failing? Does it make sense to people? Can you therefore forgive people complaining and moaning? I don't know. But what I do feel is, unless there's practical solutions, collaborative solutions coming from this, what is that moaning worth? And that's really annoying. And I had my little bubble in the UK. I had friends and family that think really positive, and we pat each other on the back. I told you I had those problems, especially in my younger years, where I was like, oh, okay, you're not actually on my team. Actually, you're gossiping about me. You don't actually believe in me, or you only like me in a certain way. You only like me a certain way. Like, those people are gone. Like, my close circle now back in the UK is really brilliant and really uplifting and really positive. But that's just your little bubble. As soon as you're outside your bubble, like, you're around again, all the complaining, all the moaning, and I don't mind a bit of complaining if it comes to something. Like I say, I don't mind people making these videos if it comes to something. And so, what is the collaborative and productive solution to this stuff? I don't know. Because if we're all just stressed and unhappy and we're not doing anything about it, well, like, that's a problem. Like, what does moaning about it? That doesn't actually fix anything. And that's why it took me a long time to make this video, because I was just like, I don't want to feed into this machine all the time. But now I'm out of it, I can offer the pros, I can offer the cons, and I can say, okay, I've taken my practical solution. I now want to speak on this and give you both sides of, you know, my relocation, as I'm going to do in my future videos here. So, yeah, nation of complainers. I've lost my train of thought slightly, but what bothers me is, it's not the complaining, I've realised as I'm talking about this, it's the resignation. It's the complaining without actually doing anything about it, being so pessimistic that it doesn't really come to anything. Culture is not based on respect anymore, crime increasing, yeah, trust is really, really low. Trust between individuals you can feel is really, really low. When you go into Tesco's and they've got cheese in a lockbox, you start thinking, cheese, right? It's like £2.17 cheese in a lot, like, it's just terrible. Like, the crime, it's a real problem. Don't like it. Countless stories. I know London is different than the rest of the country, I know. Countless stories of friends in London who have had problems, chased with machetes, I kid you not, all sorts of crazy stuff. Don't like it, don't like it. Last one here on my list, weather. Don't think I need to explain that one. If everything else in my life is going really, really well, if I'm making progress, if I feel I'm being treated well by others, if I feel I'm treating others well, I feel inclined to do so because the culture is working really smoothly and things are getting fixed. And, you know, again, there's no perfect country, so I expect even the best country in the world to have problems. But as long as they do, over the medium to long term, start getting addressed, I don't care if it rains a little bit. I don't care if it's sometimes grey a little bit. But when there's bad weather on top of everything else I've just talked about, these are the straw that breaks the camel's back moments, because you're like, and there's not even a bit of sun, there's not even good weather, and it's just this dreary grey rain that goes on, and it's a whole day of that, and you just think, all this other stuff is going wrong as well, well, that's just the cherry on the cake, or the straw that breaks the camel's back. Now, in the interest of balance, because that's all my negative ramblings, my criticisms, here are the things I do actually miss and I do cherish about life in the UK. Family and friends, obviously. The friendliness of strangers, that's another big thing. I think this is dying actually with younger generations, but the average Brit, over about sort of 35, 40 years old, is so absurdly open and friendly, and I do love that about British people. Sometimes, admittedly, I'm going to sound harsh, I think it's a bit over the top, but I do love that about British people, and I think in many cases it is really, really sincere. And that is something I do miss, and that's not the same elsewhere in the world. And there's some other really friendly cultures. I mentioned Thailand earlier on, that's a really friendly place. I found Japan to be very, very friendly. I think your Gaijin, if you actually go and live there, I think it would be a little bit more hostile. But there are other really, really friendly places. Britain doesn't have, a monopoly on that by any means. There is something, though, about the friendliness and the politeness of British strangers that, like, if you knock into someone in the UK, they say sorry to you. That's the same as Japan, actually. Japan is even more obvious, even more pronounced. But that is something really sweet and endearing. I sound patronising, but it is about British people, and I do like that, and I do enjoy that upon my return. Obviously, something I miss is having no language barrier at all, and I'll get into in future videos where I am now. But English is relatively well spoken here. I haven't had too many problems. But obviously, when you're getting to know people here and their first language isn't English, you are kind of like, and I thought this for many years whilst I travelled, like, I'm seeing a whole different side of you. And it's not that you're being fake or different with me, it's just you might have a slightly different personality in your native language, and I'm never going to get to meet that unless I learn to a really high level your native language. And FYI, this is a slightly different point, but I do think there is a level of respect, a feeling of obligation that I do have when I go to other countries to at least learn the basics and the fundamentals in a language. So that's just a point that I would stress to anyone watching. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I like that, and I think that is right that you do that. But obviously I've still got no, proficient language skills here in the place that I'm living. And so, that does have its challenges at times. So that's something I miss, just being able to speak, and people speak very quickly and in the way that I want, and have people understand me for the most part. I do miss, you guys are going to laugh, because when you're there you take these things for granted, but I do miss the British countryside and its rolling green fields and the old villages and the nice churches. This is the stuff I loved about the UK, like Bath, where I lived for 3 years, a beautiful city. That is a comforting environment to me. That is nostalgic. That is home to me. I miss British banter and sarcasm and colloquialisms. It's not the same elsewhere in the world. I do miss that. And immediately I ran into some Brits about a week ago here, and like 30 seconds and it's all hell breaks loose. It's really good fun. It's really nice talking to them. Yeah, that is something, just that sort of collective mind and how we communicate and how I suppose every culture has this, but I think really the sarcasm and the banter is second to none. It's great. It's going to sound like a small thing. Like, this doesn't actually affect me now. I'm in a country where tap water is fine, but again, Asia lots last year. Tap water, like tiny little conveniences like that. Those are things that you do appreciate about the UK. And that's it for all of my criticisms that I've given here. The UK is still home. It's still familiar. Like I said, it's where my friends and family are. And there is an interesting feeling when I land, when I take the plane, when I take a flight back to the UK and I land. And like, it is, for all of these problems, and like these things do bug me out. I'm immediately stressed when I come out at Heathrow Airport. It feels terrible. But there is still some weird, maybe it's Stockholm syndrome, but there's some weird, I am home. And I grew up here and I have infinite respect for it. And there is actually a deep patriot inside of me. I am really proud to be British, but that feels like something I have consciously and unconsciously suppressed now for years and years and years and years. But yeah, I am deeply patriotic, and I do really hope that Britain fixes itself. I just don't see how. And I don't think we're close to any tipping points. And it feels crazy because there's so many things that you could say, this is going to be a tipping point, this is going to be a tipping point, this is going to be a tipping point. No. Because I don't think we fight anymore very easily. I think we are, like I said earlier, the word of the day is resignation. I think we are resigned to our fate almost, and that's really, really sad. And this is what happens. Nations, like, I'm not a historian, nations seem to have periods of growth and then periods of decline, and later they seem to reboot. We know this, but it feels like Britain is in a pretty harsh decline phase right now, and my choice, and there was some deliberation, as you can see, like, it isn't just one-sided. like, it was pretty easy to make the decision in the end, but it was, the whole way through these last 3 or 4 years, it wasn't one-sided. But for me, my choice is, no, I'm not staying here and fighting this. I'm not. I am going to go, and until it fixes myself, I will stay gone. Yeah, I think Britain needs its renaissance. It needs its rebirth. I just don't see it's coming soon. We're all kind of resigned to it. So yeah, I think that's it. That's why I've left the UK, and I think that's hopefully a relatively balanced view. I appreciate it swings more negative. That's why I've left, because it swings more negative. But there are things that I miss, and there are things that I still love and appreciate. And I think we are best in class in lots of things in the world still. For all the negatives I've given today, still today we are best in class for things. And like I say, that friendliness is second to none, and I love that politeness. And London is an incredible capital city. It has its problems. The crime is really concerning. I don't feel safe when I go to London anymore. I appreciate that's subjective, but I don't like that. But it is second to none, and the financial aspect. And London is propping up the rest of the country GDP-wise. We know this, and it has been for the best part of a decade. And so that's really, really important. And culturally, London is a really cool city, and it is really important. What else are we best in class at? Our historic events and traditions. I think they are absolutely brilliant. And I think we are turning on those to our detriment. I think we really are in this new age, but I think that's a huge mistake. I think our historic events and traditions, they are a massive, massive part of not only our self-identity, but also our public image. And I think it's really crucial that we protect that. And I don't think we are. But again, that's another video entirely here. So that's it, guys. Let me know your questions down below. I'll cover where I am now, the next steps, and what else I'm doing in future videos. This is the first I'm making on this channel of this kind. Let's see how it lands. And I've been really conscious to not turn this into another negative tirade, because people have done this to death, broken Britain. But I have actually left now, and there are still positives, and there are negatives of leaving. And so, like I say, hopefully this is a multifaceted, well-rounded view. Okay, catch you in the next one. Let me know your questions and comments down below.